Why does nobody respect your boundaries? Now, I'm not going to keep you guys waiting. I'm not going to give you guys a long intro and going in a whole bunch of stuff. I'm going to get straight to the point. The reason why nobody respects your boundaries is because you do not yet respect your boundaries. Now, you might think to yourself, well, that doesn't make sense, right? Because every time I tell this person not to do this thing, this person continues to do this thing, and I just don't understand why they continue to do it. I tell them, and no matter what I say to them, they just continue to do it. And I tell you, the reason they continue to do it is because you have not yet learned how to respect your own boundary. And this is what I mean. When you set a boundary, with it comes a set of consequences, right? Follow-up action with that boundary. Now, I don't know what school of thought you came from. I don't know what individual or individuals you learned to set boundaries from. But as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to setting boundaries, there are two types of boundaries we set. One is an unhealthy boundary and the other is a healthy boundary, right? And this is what I mean by that. An unhealthy boundary is when you're first in that aggravated, angry, frustrated, resentful, bitter space and you just want to separate yourself and you're still fixated on the object of that boundary that has been set, right? That's the first type. And I call it unhealthy, not because it's bad or evil. It's simply that it's coming from a state of when we're unhealed, right? We're still in a space of anger, resentment, frustration, bitterness. Then we step into a healthy boundary, which is when it is more about self. As a matter of fact, we're now doing it as a form of self-respect, as a form of self-love, as a form of self-dignity, right? From a sense of self-esteem and self-respect. That is where we all aspire to get to. Why? Because when you still hold on to bitterness and resentment and anger and hatred towards somebody, you are still giving over your power. Like you can get rid of that person. You can put them on a rocket ship and send them off to the moon with Elon and them. And you will still have that person top of mind and within your emotional body, right? So again, we're really looking to go from that unhealthy to the healthy boundary. So when I'm referring to respecting your boundaries, I'm talking about when we're stepping into that healthy boundary. If you're still in a space where you're resentful and bitter, etc., and you're setting boundaries from there, make sure to check out my video where I talked about this ad nauseum, as they say. It's about a 15-minute video that just breaks that down and how to make that transition. But if you're still at that unhealthy boundary state, you're going to struggle. Like you're going to continue to manifest situations and circumstances that reflect the energy that you're still giving off, right? That's just the reality of the situation. You know, it might sound woo-woo to you, but this is the reality. It is what it is. I didn't create this universal principle. You can talk to the big guy about that. Now, that being said, why nobody respects you when you're first setting these boundaries or when you're getting used to setting boundaries is normal, and it is a part of the process. And it is simply because we ourselves are not holding to those consequences or holding to those actions, the repercussions, right, of the boundaries that we're setting. So think about this. If I said to somebody, yo, I'm not going to smoke or drink anymore, right? That's what I tell them. I say, this is my boundary. I'm not going to smoke or drink. So don't you bring that smoke. Don't you bring that drink around me, right? Then that person brings that smoke around me, brings that drink around me. And I tell them, hey, yo, I told you don't bring that smoke, don't bring that drink around me. And they do it again, then they do it again. If I just continue to tell them what I do not desire and not take action upon that, aka letting go of that person or separating myself from that individual completely sometimes, or just spending less time with that individual and letting them know that I am about this action, then they're going to continue to do what they're doing. Right? People do not want to see us change, especially those who are still remaining in the same place that they have been in since we met them in most cases. Most people do not want anything in their surrounding to change, let alone you, because you become a reflection of the things that they believe that they cannot do, right? That's why most people do not support you when you're striving after something greater, even though they are in your inner circle. There are those who are family, those are friends, coworkers, people who have known you before you started stepping into that greater version of yourself. Back to the point. So again, when you start to set these boundaries, I want you to take that example now of somebody doing that to you doing it to yourself. So if you told yourself, I'm no longer going to smoke, no longer going to drink, right? And then every time you said that to yourself, you end up smoking a little bit, end up drinking a little bit. What's going to start to happen is this. You will start to lose more and more respect for yourself, right? You tell yourself, I'm going to do one thing, and you don't do that. You break your own promise time and time again. Now, this isn't shaming. This isn't victim blaming or any of the sort. This is simply pointing out a truth. And that truth is we can only build trust with ourselves when we're doing those things that we say we're going to do, as opposed to breaking our own promises. That's how integrity is built. That's how trust within ourselves, a relationship, is built within ourselves. Just like a relationship with anybody else, right? If a person tells you time and time again they're going to come through for you and they don't, right? They're going to come at this time and they don't. They're going to do these things and they don't. You will begin to have less and less trust for that person. That's what happens when you do that to yourself. And so most of us are still in a place where we are not holding that boundary or keeping that boundary as truth for us. Like, it's still wobbly, it's still shaky. It's not exactly lying in the sand, right? It's a maybe as opposed to an absolute. And the only time we can get to an absolute is when we have that absolute within ourselves. We're bought into it. If you feel I have to separate myself from this person because of them, as opposed to because of how much respect I have for myself, you're probably going to let that person back in, right? I'm just so angry and furious at them that I'm going to set a boundary. Those boundaries don't necessarily last. But when you set a boundary from, I respect myself far too much to let myself into such situations, which is a change of self-image, a change of self-identity, how you see yourself, then you will keep those boundaries. As a matter of fact, you will go out of your way to create those boundaries and to keep those boundaries. And they will no longer even become like these borderlines or these walls around you. It just becomes your standard. It becomes the way in which you live your life. That's the way you demonstrate your energy to the world. When you start doing things from a level of self-respect as opposed to from self-neglect, that's a bar right there, or from simply anger, bitterness, and resentment, then the whole game changes. Now, again, of course, in the beginning, anger is going to push you into, get that person out of my space. I don't want these things in my space, right? First, you might have anger, righteous indignation, as they call it, which is that energy of movement, that energy of action, that energy of do something. But we cannot remain in that state. We can't hold on to that anger, let it fester into bitterness, resentment, and into hatred eventually, where now we're just attracting to ourselves even more of that destruction. And our lives now become a mirror or a magnet of the very thing that we believe we're setting boundaries from, right? So that's what we're looking to do. We're looking to start respecting our boundaries by truly first being in integrity with them, right? If I set a boundary saying I'm not going to allow this certain activity around me, then I have to not allow that activity around me, whether somebody's there or not, right? Otherwise, I'm not in integrity. And therefore, I can't walk in that power. I can't walk in that spirit. When I stopped smoking, drinking, partying, all that at 19 years old, I was done. I was through. And everybody knew it. And if you came in my space with all that mess, I say, look, you can do you, but I'm not doing this. And people would try to force it on, man, just smoke a little bit, just drink. No, that's not me. That's not what I do. That's not who I am. Yeah, I might have done that 6 years, 5 years, 4 years, 3 years ago, but that's not who I am right now, ever again. Oh, come on, just do it. You know what? If you're going to push me, then you don't care about my progress. You don't care about my growth, and that's perfectly fine. You don't have to. That's your God-given right. But I'm going to distance myself from the situation. And from a lot of individuals, I did distance myself. Those who just could not recognize, understand, or accept that I had grown from that past phase of what I used to be. I had to remove myself from them situations fast. And from those people who saw that I was living in my truth, they respected the boundaries. And some actually started respecting it even more to where it started influencing how they moved about life, right? Like, that's how we inspire the people we love. You know, you want to inspire your daughter, your sons, like your kids, whoever it may be. The best way you can do so is by living in integrity. Live what you say. They're not going to listen to what you say. They're going to listen to what you do. Live what you say. Live by your own word, and you will start to have an influence on the surrounding environment that you live in. And so again, at first, we're going to be in this state of anger, and we're going to want to get people out of our space. But eventually, we have to mature. We have to grow and evolve into a state where we're doing it from a state of respect and love, right? And I'm not talking about love, cuddly, dudley, just let anybody in. No, I'm talking about real love. Real love says, look, I can do with or without you. Do you. I wish you no harm. I wish you the absolute best. But sometimes wishing you the best means wishing you the best when I'm in the east and you in the west, right? Sometimes that's what it means. And so we have to make that transition in order for us to truly have our boundaries respected by the world around us. We first have to develop that within ourselves. Now, if this was something that was absolutely profound to you, this was something that was, I won't just say helpful. If this was something that was truly, truly hitting you at a heart level, make sure to book a consultation call with me. I want to see if you are one of the ones, like one of the tribe, one of the individuals who I am called to work with. So make sure to book a one-on-one consultation by going into the description below, click on my Calendly link, book a time, book a day, and let's get on a phone call. Let's really see if we can break through for you. Like, I know what it takes. I know what I've taken myself and so many others through. But it's for you to decide to commit that I'm no longer going to live in this wobbly space of life. I'm going to commit in what I'm committed to, and my life is finally going to change for the best. So if that is you, make sure to book that one-on-one consultation. For everybody else, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Make sure to share this with your family, your friends. Sometimes you want to just share with your hard-headed cousin or whoever it is. You know, you've been telling them this thing, but they just don't listen when you say it. So make sure to send it to Taekwon and all them, right? Make sure to send it to them. So anyway, I appreciate you. I love you. Peace.